All right, if you're staring into your fridge today like it's just gonna cook dinner for you, you have no idea what you're gonna make, this video is your answer. I've got 16 dinner recipes that are easy, insanely good, and guaranteed to get your family to actually sit down and eat. There's no weird ingredients in here, no hours in the kitchen, just real meals you actually want to make. Let's get into it, y'all. First, we're going to start with these roasted chicken drumsticks. I love these because they are super budget friendly. I got that big old pack from Aldi. I think it was $6 or $7. And as you can see right now, all I'm doing is I got my chicken drumsticks into a big old bowl, patted them dry really well, added a little bit of olive oil all over, and then I'm adding in my seasonings. I added in some sort of dry rub that I had, some lemon pepper, of course salt, pepper, onion powder, garlic powder. It looks like a ton of seasoning going on here, and some Italian seasoning. But once I mix everything up really well and get our drumsticks coated, it's not overly seasoned. These are perfect. They have so much flavor and they are so juicy the way that we're going to cook them. So we're going to go ahead and massage all of our seasonings and olive oil into our drumsticks. Want to make sure everything is nice and evenly coated, and if you want to do this and let these sit in the fridge for 30 minutes, these will be even better. Then we're going to need a baking sheet, and you want to use one with a wire rack. That's what's going to make sure our skin gets that crispy texture. And I like to just go ahead and put a piece of foil underneath mine just to kind of catch any of that grease and stuff that comes out. Just makes for a little bit easier cleanup. But now we're just going to get our drumsticks placed on here evenly. And we already have the oven preheated at 425, and these are going to take about 40-45 minutes. We do want an internal temperature of 165. I tend to bake my drumsticks a little bit higher than that, and they still stay juicy. That's just kind of how we like them. So you can temp them just until, just until however you like them, but you do want to flip these over halfway. So I just time mine for about 20 minutes. Get them out, flip them over with some tongs, then add another 20 minutes or so, and these come out perfect every single time. They remind me of roasting a chicken. A lot of y'all know I love to do that. It's one of our favorite meals, but this is just an even easier way to get those same flavors. Pair this with some mashed potatoes and a veggie, and you have a super easy dinner. This next recipe you may recognize if you go to the restaurant Longhorn. We do, but I've actually never had this dish, and it is Parmesan crusted chicken. I know it's pretty popular there, so I thought it'd be fun to try to recreate my own version. It's super easy and it's super quick as well. So for our ingredients today, this is actually some chicken breasts that are just thinly sliced. We kind of pounded them down a little less than an inch in thickness. If you have some that are really thick, you can actually just cut them in half horizontally and then pound them down. But they have been in here marinating for a couple hours in some good old Olive Garden Italian dressing. Any Italian dressing is perfect for a chicken marinade. Next up here we have some Monterey Jack cheese, also some shredded Parmesan cheese, a little bit of plain panko breadcrumbs. This is also some grated Parmesan. We're gonna need, of course, a few tablespoons of butter. We have some garlic salt. We are gonna use some ranch dressing. Stick with me on this. And then just a little bit of olive oil. Let's get this going, y'all. All right, y'all, I'm sorry if you hear my potatoes over here boiling. We have them going ahead of time because they are gonna take a little bit longer. But back here I have my large skillet. I'm just gonna add a little bit of butter to that, and we're gonna get those chicken breasts sauteing. I'm gonna add a little bit of olive oil as well. I'm just gonna brown these chicken breasts on both sides about 2 or 3 minutes till both sides are nice and brown before we pop them in the oven. So this chicken actually has 2 different spreads that we're gonna put on top. The first one, all it is our grated Parmesan. And to that, we're just gonna add some ranch dressing. About 1/4 of a cup, gin cup. Y'all, I could just eat this. I love some ranch and Parmesan cheese. All right, that was easy enough. We're gonna move that one to the side. And for our Parmesan panko topping, of course, we're gonna add in our shredded Parmesan cheese. That was almost a cup. That was about 2/3 cup of shredded Parmesan. Next, we're gonna add in our panko. We have 2 tablespoons of butter that we did go ahead and melt down. And then a sprinkle of garlic salt. I might not add quite all this because all these things we have going on are pretty salty. I'm gonna toss this around. You wanna make sure that butter kind of coats everything, kind of moistens everything up. But now we're just gonna pop these into the oven at 400 to finish cooking all the way through. All right, y'all, I just pulled our chicken breasts out of the oven. I made sure they're 165. They are looking really good. We are almost done, so we're gonna go in with that ranch and the Parmesan. We're gonna just top each one. If y'all ever had the Parmesan crusted chicken at Longhorn, let me know if you like it. All right, next we're going in with some of that Monterey Jack cheese right on top of the ranch. And last but not least, some of our panko Parmesan. All right, now all we have to do, we're gonna pop this back into the oven. We're gonna put it on broil for just maybe 5 minutes. We're gonna keep a really close eye on it till this cheese is nice and bubbly and melted. All right, y'all, just put it out of the oven. Look at those chicken breasts covered in that cheese. All right, y'all, let's plate this up. Okay, oh my goodness, y'all. Look at this, how good does that look? I don't know about y'all, but that plate looks delicious to me. All right, so I love a good bubble up casserole, and this Philly cheesesteak bubble up is no exception. This is so good, super simple flavors, but it's something the whole family will enjoy. All right, so we're starting over here in a skillet. Just gonna give about a tablespoon of avocado oil to our pan. And then we're gonna start by sauteing 1 green pepper. That must have been a big green pepper, was it? And then also we're gonna add 1 diced small onion. This is a lot of onion too, it's gonna be good. All right, our pan is not quite hot enough, but that's okay. It'll heat up and we'll get all these veggies sauteing. All right, open your biscuits, slam on the counter.
You have to have strong countertops.
Yeah, which I'm probably gonna,
You're probably gonna break
sorry,
it.
little counter. All right, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna quarter the biscuits. I find it the easiest way is just to use a pizza cutter and then just cut them into quarters, and you're just gonna throw them in your baking dish, just kind of all spread out. All right, here's the last of our biscuits. Get those all spread out evenly. Now let's take it back over here and check on those peppers and onions. All right, these are starting to saute. Let's give those just a couple more minutes. We're also gonna go ahead and add in our pound of ground beef. All right, we're just gonna let this continue to cook until we're all browned up on with the peppers and onions. I'm gonna go ahead and add just a little pinch of salt, a little pinch of pepper. If you have a lot of fat, you can go ahead and drain it. This was pretty lean, so I'm not even gonna worry about it. All right, next we're gonna go ahead and add in 1 can of cream of mushroom. We're also gonna add in just a few little splashes of Worcestershire sauce. Next we have some Colby Jack cheese here. We're gonna sprinkle in about a gin cup. It's about a cup and a half. All right, let's give everything a stir. Get all this nice and incorporated. All right, I'm gonna add a little bit of milk. We're gonna start with probably a real half cup. I'm gonna add just a splash more milk. And of course, I'll have the written directions. They're always down below in the description box. You don't always have to follow along. Sometimes I may not even specify the amount while I'm cooking it, but I always have the amount either linked if it's somebody else's recipe or typed out if it's our recipe. All right, let's bring over that ground beef mixture. We have our biscuits down here in the pan. I'm just gonna pour this right over top. It almost looks like biscuits and gravy, don't it?
Mm-hmm.
All right, now we're gonna go ahead and kind of gently toss around the biscuits in our ground beef and pepper and onion mixture. We just kind of want them to be all incorporated in there. All right, I already have the oven at 350. That's going in there for about 45 minutes or until those biscuits are nice and bubbly and cooked through. up, we have a super fun recipe and a good way to switch up pizza night. This is a pizza monkey bread. All right, so I have a large bowl over here on the side. We're gonna do the same thing. We're just gonna get our biscuits quartered up. Biscuits in a bowl. All right, next to the bowl, we're gonna add in that mozzarella cheese, about 2 cups. Then next, we're gonna add in our pepperonis. I may or may not add this whole bag. You can also chop your pepperonis if you want to. I just think it looks, I like the way it looks with the whole pepperonis on the monkey bread at the end, so I'm not gonna chop mine. And also, by the way, anytime you do a pizza recipe, you can add different things to this: peppers, onions, black olives, pineapple, anything that you like. 1/2 cup to a cup of Parmesan cheese. Next, we're gonna sprinkle on some garlic powder. And then some Italian seasoning. Ooh. Might even have to do this with my hands, y'all. I think that's what I'm gonna do. Just kind of toss it all around. Biscuits are wanting to stick together. So for our monkey bread, we're gonna use a bundt pan, any kind that you have. I wanna spray this really, really good. And then next, I'm just gonna keep using my hands. You're just gonna place all of your kind of biscuit pizza mixture all around in your bundt pan. All right, y'all, our oven is preheated to 350. This is going in there for about 45 minutes. And if your biscuits on top start to get a little bit more brown than you like, you can just gently lay a piece of tinfoil over the top and keep going. But it'll take about 45 minutes for these biscuits to get done. All right, this looks so good. Looks delicious. Let's go over here. Here is that pizza monkey bread. Y'all, this kitchen smells delicious. All right, this monkey bread is done. Now, there's a few ways you can serve this. You can dump the whole thing out. I'm gonna be honest with y'all, this bundt pan sucks. I'm about to order a new one. So, but the whole point of monkey bread anyway is to just kind of pick it apart like this. Little biscuits, y'all see that? Looks so good. We gotta get our marinara over here on the side. Or you can just kind of slice it in the pan, kind of scoop it out, however you wanna do it. But this is how we're gonna do it today. Here's a quick little overview of the ingredients we're gonna need for this recipe. We are gonna need 1 pound of ground beef. This is about 1.5 cups of just regular white rice. We're gonna need a little bit of salsa. I have salt and pepper back here. We are going to dice up this onion. We'll need 1 packet of taco seasoning. I have about 3.5 cups of beef broth over here. And then lastly, let's not forget the star of the show, our queso, which will be mostly used as a garnish to go on top. But this is gonna be so good. I'm so excited about our lunch today. Let's get it going. All right, so to our skillet, we're gonna go ahead and add our chopped onion. This is probably 1/4 cup to 1/2 cup of chopped onion. Just gonna let that saute just for a couple minutes. All right, next to our onion, we're gonna add 1 pound of ground beef. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and turn this down. I'm gonna get just a little bit of this grease out. I'm not gonna worry about getting it all out because it is gonna add to the flavor, but I don't want it to be overly greasy. And yes, I know I could be using tongs for this. I live dangerously, I guess. All right, next all we're gonna do is pour in our rice. We're also gonna sprinkle in our taco seasoning. We're also gonna pour in about 1/4 cup of salsa. And then 3.5 cups of beef broth. All right, I have this on about low to medium heat. I'm gonna carefully give everything a stir, and y'all, this is it. It's been cooking about 20 minutes, and it's getting close to being done, but I feel like we need a little bit more liquid, so I'm gonna add just 1 cup of water. I'm gonna stir that around. You can see it's already thickening up really well. But I'm gonna let it continue to cook the last 15 minutes or so, let it soak up this water. I just felt like the rice wasn't completely done. So just kind of keep an eye on it if you need to add a little bit more liquid. you can do that. But we are almost there, and I can tell you the kitchen smells delicious. All right, y'all, it is done. Last but not least, we're gonna do a little drizzle of this queso. Of course, you can do this on just the plates too, but I just thought it'd be pretty. And then just for some color, you could definitely do chopped cilantro. I didn't have any, but we did have some green onions. I'm gonna add that in, or on top. Y'all, does that not look delicious or what? All right, y'all, I'm so excited about this. It is smelling so good. Plate it up. Like I said, you could just add the queso at the end if you wanted to. But talk about an easy one skillet weeknight dinner. This is delicious. I mean, I think even the pickiest of eaters would like this. Y'all give this one a try. All right, this next meal is truly a one-pan dinner. It is a creamy sun-dried tomato chicken and orzo skillet, pure comfort food, and it only takes about 30 minutes to make. All right, the first thing we're gonna do is heat up. I just have a large iron skillet. We're gonna heat this up on a medium heat, just a little bit of olive oil. And while we're doing that, let's go season up our chicken. All right, so I just have a large bowl. We're gonna add in our chicken thighs. We have about 6 chicken thighs here. It's 1 pound of chicken thighs. So we're gonna do about 1 teaspoon of dried oregano, 1 teaspoon of paprika. This is about 1/2 teaspoon of red pepper flakes. Darren wanted me to add a little bit of cayenne, so I'm just gonna do a little sprinkle in there. Then we have a pinch of salt and a pinch of black pepper. Next, I'm gonna drizzle on another teaspoon of olive oil just on our chicken thighs. And I'm gonna grab my gloves. All right, so now we're just gonna toss our chicken thighs around in our olive oil and all those seasonings. Everything nice and evenly coated. All right, those look pretty good. Our skillet should be heated up. Let's go check on it. We're just gonna get all of our chicken thighs added in. And we are just going to sear these on both sides for just about 5 minutes or so until both sides are golden brown. We are gonna remove these from the skillet to add our other ingredients. But everything is gonna finish cooking all in here. It's time to go ahead and flip our chicken thighs. We're starting to get some nice color on that side. Look at that, y'all. That looks good already. So we're just gonna give everything a flip. Let it go another 3 to 5 minutes on this side. Our chicken is looking nice and golden on both sides. So now I just have a plate over here. I'm gonna transfer it over. Looks nice and golden already, but it's gonna be even better. All right, I'm just gonna set this to the side. I'm gonna add 2 tablespoons of butter. Get that melting down. Kind of help those little bits of goodness come up off our pan. We're also going to add some minced garlic, and this is 1 small shallot that we just diced up. Just going to continue to stir this to make sure that garlic doesn't burn. It's only going to take just a couple seconds to open up these flavors. Get this butter melted before we add some other ingredients. We're also going to add 1 cup of orzo. We're going to kind of toast it up along with everything for just a minute or 2. And one thing about cast iron, just make sure, of course, you're using like a silicone utensil. These are Spurtles. These are my favorite. Not sponsored, but anytime you're cooking on cast iron, you don't want to use a metal utensil and scratch your pan, your skillet. All right, I just like to spread mine out a little bit. Let this toast for just a minute or 2. We're gonna add about a 1/3 cup of wine. We're just gonna stir it around, kind of deglaze our pan a little bit. You can see some of those little orzo might have gotten almost a little too toasty, but I think they'll be just fine. I think they'll be good. All right, next we're gonna go ahead and add in 1.5 cups of water. And we are just gonna give this a stir and bring this up to a simmer. Okay, next we're gonna come in with 1 cup of heavy cream. We're also gonna sprinkle in about 1/2 cup of grated Parmesan cheese. The recipe we are following said grated. I'm sure you could use shredded Parmesan if that's what you had. We're also gonna add about 1 tablespoon of Dijon mustard. I have about 2 cups of baby spinach here. I did kind of go ahead and pull mine off the stems, especially in stuff like this with a creamy sauce. I love spinach, it's gonna cook way down, but sometimes the stems can still be a little bit woody, so I just don't like those as much. So I just pulled some of the stems off of there. Last but not least, we're gonna add about 1/2 cup of those sun-dried tomatoes. And I think I probably tell y'all this every time I cook with sun-dried tomatoes. Tomatoes are not my favorite, but y'all, I love sun-dried tomatoes. They taste completely different in my opinion. They really are not acidic, they're more sweet. So I love adding them in. Give everything a stir. All right, I think our chicken has mostly wilted down. I'm gonna go ahead and turn my stove off. Now it's time to bring back over those chicken thighs. We're just gonna nestle them down in this sauce. This looks incredible already. What do you think?
I think it looks delicious.
All right, we got everything in our skillet. Now we're just gonna transfer this whole thing to the oven for only about 10 or 15 minutes. The oven's already preheated to 400. Let's just pop it in here. And like I said, 10 or 15 minutes, but of course we'll check to make sure that chicken is 165, but we should be good. And while you wait on your chicken in the oven, finish your glass of wine. All right, y'all, it has been about 15 minutes. We're gonna check, see how we're looking. That looks amazing, if I do say so myself. Let's carefully bring it over here. All right, it's time to plate this up. I'm gonna try to scoop out some of this orzo, kind of make a little bed of orzo. It's creamy and delicious, oh my goodness. Look how good that looks, y'all. I'm just gonna give it a little Parmesan cheese for a garnish. Cut into this chicken. It's nice and tender. See the inside. Nice and cooked through. Look at that, looks super juicy. All right, let's give it a try. The first recipe we're gonna make today is a chili lime chicken tacos. These are so easy to make and so good and such a good little switch up for Taco Tuesday. So we have about 4 chicken breasts over here. I'm just gonna get those in the bottom of my crock pot. You can do 3 or 4, but my pack of chicken came with 4, so there's no sense in leaving one behind. Get them all nice and snug down in there. All right, next I just have 1 jalapeno and 1 poblano pepper, and we are just gonna chop and dice these up. And you can leave the seeds in there if you want to. I'm gonna remove them just to make it a little bit less spicy. The poblano pepper is not spicy anyway, but sometimes the jalapeno can be pretty spicy. I'm sure y'all know that. Now I'm just adding my chopped jalapeno and chopped poblano peppers all over my chicken. Next, we're going in with 1/2 cup of freshly squeezed lime juice. Next, we're going in with some honey for some sweetness. This is probably just a few tablespoons. That's gonna balance out all of our heat going on. We're also gonna add a sprinkle of salt. 1 tablespoon of minced garlic. Now I'm gonna do also just a little sprinkle of cayenne. Not too much, I don't want it to be overly spicy, especially if we have a spicy jalapeno. Y'all, my mouth is watering, oh my gosh. And lastly, I have about 1/2 teaspoon of smoked paprika. And this is it. We're gonna let this cook. I'm gonna cook mine on high for probably only 3 to 4 hours. These chicken breasts typically do not take long at all to cook. And these are gonna be some delicious tacos. All right, our chicken has been cooking on high for 4 hours exactly. It is nice and tender. I already checked it with a fork. So now I'm just gonna take 2 forks and shred it all up. As you can see, I'm not really having to work that hard to do that. And these smell delicious. But it really is because I smell all those spices and peppers in here. It smells really, really good. And we are making these into tacos, of course. But as you can see, the only liquid I added was that lime juice. And I think this will be really good like a bowl, like put it over some rice and kind of do it like a chipotle bowl almost. All right, I think we have it pretty much all shredded up. You can see all of those peppers in there. All my people who always comment for no cheese, there's no dairy in this, right?
Unless you put it on a taco.
Well, of course, if you add your dairy toppings, but for a dairy-free recipe, I think this one is a perfect one. All right, let's grab our taco shells. Alrighty, y'all, let's plate these up. And as you can see, this chicken has a lot of juice in there, which is a good thing. It's not dry chicken at all, but I am gonna use my slotted spoon and just kind of drain it off because I don't want quite all that liquid in my tacos. And of course, I know I don't have to tell y'all, add whatever taco toppings you like. In this house, our kids especially love, they actually prefer chicken tacos, but they have already eaten tonight, but we will have plenty of this left over. First, we're going in with a little bit of cheese. Next, a little lettuce. Let's do a little bit of salsa. Next, gotta have sour cream. And just a little hot sauce, because why not? And lastly, just a sprinkle of cilantro. This looks delicious.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is your plate. You get the show plate tonight.
Yay.
But this next recipe is a maple Dijon autumn sheet pan dinner. All right, so for this sheet pan meal, we're actually gonna start with a couple of our vegetables that are gonna take a little bit longer. We're gonna use some sweet potato, if that doesn't scream fall. I don't know what will. And we have some Brussels sprouts. I'm just gonna kind of put some on the sheet pan. I might not use all of these potatoes because it is a good bit. We're gonna have a couple other things adding to our sheet pan here in just a minute. I'm gonna add some Brussels sprouts. Also, you can really do this with any vegetables that you want. If you don't like Brussels sprouts, you could use broccoli, kind of in a single flat layer here. I am gonna give them just a little drizzle of olive oil, avocado oil, whatever this is. All right, let's go ahead and toss these around gently. And I'll spread back out. And with the Brussels sprouts, if you want to get them all kind of face down, that's where that really good caramelization happens on that side. So let's go ahead and get these all flipped over. We're also gonna sprinkle on some Italian seasoning. We're also gonna add just a little sprinkle of salt and pepper. These tend to be noisy, so I'm telling y'all before I do it, but y'all, I love these things. I'll have these linked in my little Amazon storefront. And pepper. And I already have my oven preheated to 400. These are just gonna go in there for about 15 to 20 minutes. All right, while our potatoes and Brussels sprouts bake in the oven, we're gonna start to work on our sauce. It's gonna go on everything. All right, so I just added some minced garlic to my little bowl here. Now we're gonna add in about a 1/3 cup of pure maple syrup. Just gonna eyeball it. And we're also gonna add about a 1/3 cup of Dijon mustard. All right, now we're just gonna mix everything together. I'm gonna add just a little bit more Italian seasoning to our sauce. Of course, Italian seasoning has all those good kind of Thanksgiving fall vibe seasonings going on in there. All right, let's put that to the side. When our sheet pan comes out with those potatoes, we're gonna add some slices of some red onion, as well as some chicken apple sausage. Thought this would be perfect in there. I love chicken sausage, but that chicken and apple is gonna go so good with our sweet potatoes and Brussels sprouts. It's gonna be perfect. So let's get those all sliced up while that's in the oven. All right, so for these, I probably do about little 1/2 inch thick pieces. You can see the little chunks of apple in there. These are so good. But you could use any type of sausage. If you want to do like an andouille sausage, smoked turkey sausage, any one of those would be really good.
Kielbasa.
Yes, kielbasa. We should do a turkey sausage next and do like a full Thanksgiving on a sheet pan with some white potatoes, turkey sausage. We could put some whole cranberries on there. Wonder if that would work. We should experiment that and see. I mean, I could have used a smaller cutting board, you know, like this one's kind of big. Could have used a smaller one.
Surprisingly, you only lost one little tiny sausage.
Our chicken sausage and our onion over there. All right, our sweet potatoes and Brussels have been in there for about 20 minutes. I'm gonna bring them over here with everything else. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and give these a toss. You can see those Brussels sprouts are starting to get some color on them. They're gonna be so good, especially after we add that maple Dijon sauce on top. All right, got those spread out. Now we're just gonna add in our red onion. I'm gonna go ahead and do all of that. And we're gonna add in our chicken apple sausage. And here is that sauce that we made, about said dressing. Same thing, let's get that poured all over everything. All right, we're gonna toss this around. I'm sorry if y'all hear my washing machine in the background, or dryer. Let's toss this around, and this is gonna go back in the oven at 400, probably for another 20 to 30 minutes. I'm just gonna keep an eye on it. I wanna make sure our sweet potatoes especially are really nice and soft. All right, I'm gonna spread everything out as evenly as I can. Probably won't fit quite on one single layer, but we can get it pretty close. So good, this is a perfect fall dinner. And look at those colors too. Could not be more perfect for October and Halloween. All right, going back into the oven for another 20 to 30 minutes. Okay, this smells so good. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and give this one more toss. So I actually did turn my oven up to 450 at the end, and I just put mine in there for about 5 minutes. I just really like to get some more of those little caramelized bits on everything. I think that kind of makes it. So I'll be sure to add that in my instructions down below or to the recipe link. But on the side, I'm just gonna serve ours up with a little bit of rice. There's our chicken sausage and our veggies. Look how good this looks. Super delicious, really healthy, and honestly, really, really easy. This is so good, y'all. If you love Salisbury steak, but you don't like to do all that work, this is a very easy version. This is Salisbury steak meatballs. Only a few simple ingredients down here. Gonna be very quick and easy to make. We're gonna start with some frozen home-style meatballs. If you wanna make your own meatballs, you can totally do that. We're also gonna have some onions, have a little bit of mushrooms back here, butter, and then moving over here, this is just some beef broth, cornstarch, little ketchup, some minced garlic, Worcestershire, little chopped parsley for the end. This is gonna come together super quick, but have all those really delicious flavors you find in a Salisbury steak. All right, first of all, I just have a large skillet over here. We're gonna add just a couple tablespoons of olive oil, and we're just gonna saute our frozen meatballs right in here and let them thaw out as they cook. Pop that on. We're just gonna let those kind of cook. They're already cooked. We're gonna let them heat up and heat through. All right, they're starting to brown up on the outside. I'm just gonna turn my stove down to a little less than medium. Just let that keep going. All right, our meatballs have heated through. So I'm just gonna scoop them out. I have an extra bowl back here. We're just gonna scoop them out and set these to the side while we saute up our onions and get that really nice gravy made. All right, to the same skillet, I'm gonna add about 3 tablespoons of butter. I'm gonna let that melt down. And to that, I'm gonna add about 1 medium onion that we just sliced up pretty thinly. And we're just gonna saute these onions until they start to soften up a little bit. All right, just gonna let that sit for a minute or two. All right, while our onions are sauteing up, to a mixing bowl, I'm just gonna add 2 cups of beef broth. Have a little bit of Worcestershire sauce. We're also gonna add about 1 tablespoon of ketchup. And we're also gonna whisk in some cornstarch as well. Whoops, I'm gonna throw it everywhere. We're gonna throw the cornstarch all over the place. All right, we are gonna add some garlic in back here with our onions. And I did make some garlic mashed potatoes to go along with this. But for our seasoning, I'm just going in with this Auntie No-No's. Has garlic, onion, salt, and pepper. Just a little bit to season up our sauce. All right, our onions are beginning to soften, so I'm also gonna go ahead and add in a couple tablespoons of garlic, jarred garlic, as well as 1 small can of mushrooms. All right, we're just gonna let that cook just another minute or two. Now we're just gonna pour in that sauce we made. I'm just gonna kind of whisk it around, and we're just gonna cook this a couple minutes until our sauce starts to thicken up a little bit. I'm gonna add just a little bit of black pepper. You can see our sauce has really started to thicken up a little bit. The color has also deepened just a little bit. So now we're just gonna bring back over our meatballs. Everything is pretty much done at this point. We're just gonna let everything heat back through. Let our meatballs kind of hang out in the sauce for a little bit. Just gently kind of stir them and get them down in here. And this looks so good. This might be my new favorite way to make Salisbury steak. I mean, how easy is this? All right, I have them down in that sauce. I'm gonna bring the lid back over and let these hang out just for a few minutes while I finish up getting everything ready. And we'll be ready to try these. So I'm just gonna serve ours over a bed of mashed potatoes. You could also serve these over egg noodles or even rice, whatever you have. And I will link, or I will type out how I make my mashed potatoes down below. And of course, I'll have the directions for the Salisbury steak meatballs as well. Some of our So we are finally having some cool fall-like weather today. It's actually super cool and rainy. So I knew I wanted to just throw something in the crock pot for dinner tonight. So obviously we're just gonna add 2 chicken breasts to your crock pot. And 2, we have a family of 4. 2 is really enough in here because we're gonna add pasta and all sorts of stuff. So it's gonna make a ton. To season up our chicken breast, I'm just gonna go in with some lemon pepper. I always love to add lemon pepper, especially in these kind of savory crock pot meals. I don't know, it doesn't taste lemony. It just gives it like a little something. And then we're also gonna add some Italian seasoning. And again, just add whatever seasonings you like. And then the star of the show for this recipe, of course, is the Buffalo Wild Wings. It is the Parmesan garlic sauce. We're gonna use this entire bottle in here. So we're just gonna dump this whole bottle of Parmesan garlic sauce on top. And then there's so many different versions of this recipe. A lot call for half and half. They want you to take, call for heavy cream. They want you to take your heavy cream, fill your jar up of this and kind of rinse it out and add it. But I think the half and half works just as fine. So that's what we're gonna use today. So like I said, we're just gonna fill up this bottle. I'm not gonna fill it all the way up just so I have a little bit of room to give it a little shake in there. And of course, this also helps to clean out this bottle so we don't waste any of this sauce. Pour that on. Okay. Wash my hands again. Clean up my mess. And then the last thing we're gonna add right now is just about half a block of cream cheese. It's just the regular full-fat cream cheese. All right, and that is it for now. We are gonna pop the lid on, cook this on high for about 3 to 4 hours until that chicken is cooked through. And then we're gonna add just a couple more things and this will be ready. All right, so our chicken's been cooking. It cooked on high about 4 hours and then I turned it down to low and then it's been on warm as we ran everywhere this afternoon. It looks kind of crazy right now, but we're just gonna shred up the chicken. I'm just using my little mix and chop tool. You can use 2 forks, whatever you wanna do. The last thing we're gonna add in is just some shredded cheese. I just got this Mexican blend because it has some shredded Monterey Jack, cheddar, whole milk mozzarella, and then asadero. I don't know if I said that right. I mainly got it because of the Monterey Jack, the cheddar, and the mozzarella in there. So we're just gonna add in about a cup. Maybe just a little bit more. We're just gonna stir in that cheese. I have my crock pot on warm right now. You could leave it on warm or low, whatever you wanna do. It will not take long at all for that cheese to melt in there. So while that cheese is melting, when your dinner is almost ready to eat, you are going to want to go ahead and boil your pasta on the side. You can put your pasta in with some of these kind of crock pot meals, but I really like to cook mine on the side just to ensure it doesn't kind of overcook in the crock pot, if you know what I mean. So I'm just boiling up 1 pound of this corkscrew pasta. You can use elbow noodles, some penne noodles work great, any kind that you want. And then you're just going to add those cooked noodles right in with everything else. I didn't quite add all of my noodles. I kind of like to just eyeball it to make sure I get that right consistency. If you've been here a while, you know I love to talk about it. I like my stuff to be saucy. I don't want there to be too many noodles in here. So just add however many you want and you are pretty much done. This will stay warm for a little bit, but again, I would not cook it any longer at this point, just because you don't want your noodles to be soggy. I did go back and added just a little bit of heavy cream to mine. I felt like it was just a little bit thick for my liking, so you can do that. You can add a little heavy cream, a little milk, just to thin it out and get it to where you like it. And then next, all we're gonna do is plate this up, and this meal is so delicious. I have made it before, but it's been a super long time, and I just forgot how delicious this one is. So first of all, we're just gonna place our chicken breast in our slow cooker, and these are actually some thin chicken breast, so they are not gonna take long at all to cook. But this recipe really doesn't take long anyway, so just gonna pile these up in there. But after the chicken cooks, we're gonna kind of shred it up anyway, so it doesn't matter if they're thin or thick. As long as they're cooked and done, we'll be good to go. All right, so now we're gonna come over here and make our teriyaki sauce. All right, to make our own sauce, it's pretty simple. We're first gonna add about half a cup of soy sauce. This is about half a cup I have left in this bottle, so I'm just gonna pour all of that in there. To that, we're gonna add about 3 tablespoons of brown sugar. We're also going to do about 3 tablespoons of honey. Next, we're going to add 1 kind of heaping tablespoon of minced garlic. Then we're going to add 2 teaspoons of toasted sesame oil. A little bit of this goes a long way. Such good flavor, but you do not need a lot at all. Okay? And last but not least, we're going to add about 2 tablespoons of this rice wine vinegar. If you don't have this, just regular white vinegar or even apple cider vinegar will be fine too. All right, now we're just going to give everything a mix. Okay, and now all we're going to do is pour our sauce right over our chicken breast. And this can cook either on low for 6 to 7 hours or high 3 to 4. That's what we're going to go with. We're getting a late start in the day. I feel like we say that a lot of times doing these slow cooker meals. So we're going to try high for about 3 hours. We'll check back in. All right, it has been about 3 hours. Our chicken breasts are nice and tender. They are all the way done. So now I'm just going to take 2 forks. And I'm just going to go in here and kind of shred up my chicken. I don't think I'm going to shred it up all the way. I'm going to leave it in, bite-sized pieces since we are doing teriyaki chicken. About like that. You can do whatever you want. You can shred it if you want, of course. But I think it'll be good to kind of not shred it up all the way. Just going to kind of chunk it up a little bit in here. It smells delicious in the whole house. That sesame oil just smells so good. All right, so we are going to thicken up the sauce just a little bit. I'm going to keep it on high just while we do that because we kind of want it to just simmer a little bit. So in this little cup, I just have about 2/3 a cup of water and a couple tablespoons of cornstarch. I'm just going to give that a little whisk. And then all we're going to do is pour our cornstarch slurry right in here with our chicken. And this is just going to thicken up that teriyaki sauce. Just kind of helps it stick a little bit. Give it a little stir. And like I said, I'm just going to leave it on high just for a few more minutes It won't take long at all to kind of thicken up in here. But while it is doing so, we're gonna go over here and make some fried rice to go with it. I cannot get over how easy this meal was to make. That homemade teriyaki sauce was absolutely perfect. And like I said, we just served ours over some simple stovetop fried rice, or just some regular rice would even be good with this too. We chopped with a little teriyaki sauce, some green onions, and some shrimp sauce, or some yum yum sauce, depending on what you want to call it. And it was perfect. All right, the first thing we're gonna do is get our potatoes into the oven. These will be perfect just to bake away while we're in there packing up all of our Christmas stuff. So you can use russet potatoes. These are actually just 2 golden potatoes. These happen to be my favorite. All we're gonna do, we're gonna grab some tinfoil. I like to just put a little bit of olive oil in my hands and then just rub each one down. We're also gonna add just a little bit of flaky sea salt to each one. So I have my oven at 425, and these are relatively small, so they probably only take 45 minutes to an hour. We're gonna pop it in the oven, and I'll check back in just a little bit. We're gonna cook up some chicken breast to stuff our potatoes with. This is actually just 1 chicken breast that we kind of butterflied, just cut right down the middle. And this is perfect. This is the perfect amount for 2 people, especially when you're gonna stuff it in something like a potato. So first, I'm just gonna drizzle each one with just a tiny bit of olive oil. And since we're doing a loaded baked potato style, I'm gonna use some of this just ranch seasoning to season up our chicken breast. Add some of that right on there. Kinda work it in there. Flip it over and do the exact same thing to the other side. Our potatoes are pretty much tender. I just have them sitting in the oven, kind of just chilling out, hanging out until we have our chicken done. And we're gonna do this in the air fryer. It is not gonna take long at all. Perfect way to cook chicken breast, especially if you're only cooking for 1 or 2 people. All right, let's get some seasoning on this side. And we're gonna preheat the air fryer to about 375. I'm gonna use one of these little liners. Just pop down in there like that. Super easy, helps keep your air fryer clean. So I'm gonna pop this in the air fryer, and we're gonna let it cook about 6 or 7 minutes, and then we'll flip our chicken breast and let it cook another 6 or 7 minutes until we're at 165. All right, our chicken is done from the air fryer. It looks perfect. So all I'm gonna do at this point is just get it chopped up into kind of bite-sized little pieces. All right, so our potatoes are out of the oven. So first things first, we need to scoop our potatoes out into a large bowl here. All right, so I'm just gonna try to kind of cut down the middle, but not all the way through. Now I'm basically just gonna kind of carefully scoop out all of our potato filling. All right, while that potato filling is still piping hot, I'm gonna add probably just a tablespoon of butter. Let that be kind of melting down in there. Now we're gonna add 2 tablespoons of softened cream cheese. We're also gonna add in probably about a 1/3 cup of just some sharp cheddar cheese. Next, I'm gonna add about 1/4 cup of sour cream. Then I'm just gonna add in some cooked bacon. This is just some bacon bits, just add those right in. Next, I'm gonna bring back over our cooked chicken. We're gonna add all of that in as well. To season up everything, I thought I would add some empty no-nos. It has salt, pepper, garlic, and onion, just a little sprinkle. And then I thought I would add just a little bit of Cajun seasoning as well. Just a little sprinkle. All right, now we're just gonna get everything mixed together. Potatoes and chicken, cheese, all of this good stuff. All right, next I just brought back over our potatoes, and we are just gonna stuff these full, and they will be full with all that chicken and everything added. They are gonna be really full. This makes a perfect meal. I mean, lunch, dinner, you pair this with a salad or any kind of veggie for that matter, and this really is a complete meal. And lastly, before we place these back into the oven, just a sprinkle more cheese right on top. All right, now I did turn my oven down to 400, and these are just gonna go back in there for just about 10 to 15 minutes until they're warm and that cheese is melting. All right, y'all, our potatoes are done and out of the oven. Look how good they look. One last little touch, we're gonna add some green onion on top. Let's cut into this thing. See how good it looks. Look at that, you guys. Look at that stuffed potato. All that chicken in there, cheese, bacon, sour cream. This is delicious. Even just one person maybe could cook just enough chicken. This is gonna be so good. Let's go eat lunch, y'all. So first things first, we're gonna add some butter to our skillet here. We're gonna saute our onions and celery. I'm only adding a half a stick of butter. The recipe I'm going by in this church cookbook calls for a whole stick, but I think we can get by with just half a stick. Plus this, what you see in here is the pan we cooked our bacon in. So I just left it, we got the grease out of there, but all that's gonna do is add more flavor. So to that, like I said, we're just gonna add our chopped onion. We're also gonna add some chopped celery. All right, I'm just gonna give this a stir, and we're just gonna let this butter melt down and let our celery and onion saute just until they start to become opaque. Alrighty, our celery and onions are nice and sauteed. Smells so good, it's my favorite smell. All right, I'm just gonna mix everything in my pan. This is about 2 cups of already cooked rice. And this is just minute rice. We just cooked it right in the microwave. We're gonna add it in. We're also gonna add in, this is just 1 bag of frozen broccoli that we thawed out, and I did go ahead and cook mine just to make sure it's cooked, and we went ahead and chopped it all up. We're gonna add 1 can of cream of mushroom soup. We're also gonna add in 1 gin cup of shredded sharp cheddar cheese. We're gonna go ahead and give this a stir. So this recipe also calls for some water, but I'm gonna go ahead and stir mine together and just see if I think it needs it. Some of those buttery veggies all stirred in. So this is broccoli, rice, and cheese casserole. Normally my broccoli casserole is just broccoli and cheese, but one ingredient, and I think I've mentioned this to y'all before in a ton of church cookbooks in the broccoli casseroles, is Cheese Whiz. And I think that was another thing that was kind of popular when a lot of these church cookbooks were written. So y'all let me know if you've ever made broccoli casserole with Cheese Whiz. And I still have got to try that for myself. Haven't tried it yet, so if you have, let me know how that is. All right, so I am indeed gonna add in that water. Not quite all of it. Give it another little stir. All right, for this one, kind of the same deal. I'm gonna use some salt-free dash. This is just the onion and herb. Just gonna give it a little sprinkle in there, because why not? This time I am gonna just use a smaller baking dish. This recipe says it makes 6 servings. Although this looks like a good bit to me, I'm gonna go ahead and give her a little spray. All right, let's get into the baking dish. Spread everything out evenly. And the oven is already on 350, and this just goes in there for about 30 minutes. Our broccoli casserole is done. Again, it smells incredible. Let's give this a try. This looks so good. Oh my gosh, this looks delicious. Looks cheesy, has that rice in there with the broccoli. I think this is gonna be another good one. So if you've been here a while, you will know I love a good chicken casserole. We've probably tried every chicken casserole recipe under the sun, but nevertheless, this one is a brand new one to me, and it is cracked chicken casserole. Spoiler alert, this one was super delicious, and I actually took several different kind of little shortcuts in this recipe, so it was very easy to make, but it turned out really good. This bacon I'm using is just the microwave bacon. If you've never seen it before or you're not familiar, it comes kind of already like pre-cooked a little bit, and then you just pop it in the microwave for a few seconds, and it does get pretty crispy, and it's perfect to use in recipes like this. We also just went out of town recently, stayed in a hotel that just had, the microwave and coffee maker, and that bacon was perfect to have for breakfasts for the kids and stuff. Anyway, so we're going to need a large bowl, and to that we're going to create kind of our filling for this casserole. We're going to need some sour cream, 1 can of cream of chicken soup, and then we're going to need 1 packet of the ranch dressing mix. Next to the mix, we're going to add some butter. I'm just going to pop mine in the microwave to kind of melt it a little bit first, and then we're going to pour that in, and then again we're just going to mix everything together. So the next thing we're going to add are some shredded hash browns, and I really love using these Simply Potatoes ones. They're the ones that are not frozen. I just feel like they cook better in casseroles like this, especially casseroles that you're not necessarily baking for a long time. So we're going to add 1 bag of the shredded hash browns, and then you saw me adding in some of our rotisserie chicken. It's about 2 cups. I use about half of a rotisserie chicken that I just pulled earlier in the week. Y'all saw me do that. Then we're going to add some cheese. I like that triple cheddar, and of course our bacon that we chopped. Y'all, I should have used a bigger bowl probably, but we're going to give this a mix the best that we can before we get it into our baking dish. So next, of course, I just have my 9x13 here. I did give it a little light spray with some cooking spray, and we're just gonna get all of our chicken filling into the dish. Now, I'll go ahead and tell y'all, you're probably watching this thing and this looks just like a hash brown casserole, and that's exactly the vibes that it gives. But every time I've always made the hash brown casserole or even the funeral potatoes, anything like that, I've always thought you could definitely add some chicken to this and call it a meal. So I guess that's exactly what we're doing today. I did save a little bit of that shredded cheese to add on top, as well as some of that crumbled bacon. And this is just going to go into the oven at 350 for only about 30 minutes until everything is nice and bubbly and heated through. All right, y'all, and just like that, we have a super easy dinner come together. I just served ours with some green beans. Again, y'all know my love for canned green beans, but this was perfect, and we had tons of leftovers that heat up just perfectly. Alrighty, my friends. Secondly, today we have a white chicken chili recipe. And let me just tell you, I know it's still probably 1,000,000 degrees where you are, but I don't know, I'm getting in that fall mode and I've been craving something like this. Let me tell you, go ahead and make sure you save this recipe. I'll have this recipe down in the description because you are going to want to have this in your binder, whatever you keep your recipes in for fall. It's going to warm you up. It is so cozy, so flavorful, and so delicious. So let's get to it. I'm using my Dutch oven for this recipe. So first, we're just going to start by sauteing up half an onion in some butter and a little bit of olive oil. Like I said, I'll have all the measurements down below in the description. We're going to also add a little bit of garlic to that. Let that saute for 30 seconds or so just to bring out that garlic flavor. Then we're going to add in some chicken broth. And next we're going to start with our seasonings. The cayenne, this was the perfect amount of cayenne. Oh my gosh, so good. But of course, adjust any of these to your preferences and your family's taste. We're adding in some coriander, smoked paprika, oregano. We have garlic powder, onion powder, cumin. What else? I'm showing y'all on the screen right now. I can't even remember, but all of these flavors, I'm telling y'all, was so perfect. Alright, next up we're going to add in 1 can of the cannellini beans or the white kidney beans. I did go ahead and drain and rinse those pretty good. We're also going to need 1 small can of the diced green chilies. And then I added in about a cup of corn. You can use just a can of corn, but I had some frozen, so I just used about a cup of that frozen corn. We're going to get everything mixed together again. And then next we're going to need 1 block of cream cheese. I'm just using the Neufchâtel, the 1/3 less fat cream cheese. It tastes the same, and you know, why not? So I do soften that just a little bit, and we're going to add that to the pot. That was some lime juice that I added in right there. And we're just going to stir this around a little bit, just kind of until that cream cheese starts to melt. And then of course we're going to bring over that delicious rotisserie chicken. Get that added in there, give that another good stir. And I like to pop my lid on here, just let it simmer about 30 minutes until everything is just all melty and delicious. We served ours with a little shredded cheese and sour cream on top. Also some tortillas, which are not pictured. But y'all, like I said, this was absolutely incredible. So creamy, so delicious. Alright, so a really quick look at the ingredients for this recipe. There is not many at all. Kind of looks like it here, but really simple ingredients. So we are going to use some breakfast sausage. You can use Italian sausage if you prefer. We just really don't care for Italian sausage, so I'm just going to use the regular. We're also going to need a little onion. I have my better than bouillon for some chicken broth back here. Minced garlic. We're going to use some mozzarella cheese. Of course, we're going to need a bag of frozen, it's just the cheese tortellini. We're also going to need some fresh spinach. And for seasonings, I have some garlic powder back here, Italian seasoning. We'll probably add a little pepper, probably won't need any salt. And then y'all, I have to tell you about my newest find, this marinara sauce right here. Or this pasta sauce, I should say. So y'all know I'm a big fan of Rao's. We still use Rao's all the time. But for Christmas, I made a semi-homemade lasagna, which was delicious, by the way. That was our Christmas Day dinner. So for our Christmas Day lasagna, I had planned on making my homemade pasta sauce using the San Marzano tomatoes. If you know anything about homemade pasta sauce, you know that's like the best to use. Well, I happened to see this and I picked it up and compared the ingredients on here with Rao's, and it was exactly the same. I'll show y'all if you want to take a look at it. It's just tomatoes, let's see, extra virgin olive oil, fresh garlic, fresh onions, fresh carrots, salt, pepper, pear concentrate, oregano, and black pepper. No preservatives, just like Rao's. The best part about this was it's like half the price. I think it was $2.99 or $3.99. So anyway, if you have a food line, check there for the silver palette San Marzano pasta sauce. It was so delicious. Everybody loved that lasagna, and that was a little shortcut to my semi-homemade lasagna. All right, so let's go ahead. Let's start with this one dish tortellini tonight. All right, so we're gonna start, of course, with just a large skillet. I have a little bit of olive oil heating up in our pan, and we're gonna add, this is about a medium onion. We just diced up. I'm gonna let this start to saute just until it starts to soften up a little bit. All right, next I'm just gonna add in our 1 pound of sausage in there, and we're gonna get it browned up. All right, our sausage is pretty much browned up. So next, I'm just gonna add about 2 tablespoons of minced garlic. The recipe I'm following calls for 1.5 cups of marinara, but I'm just gonna use this whole thing. Now for our chicken broth, I'm just gonna pour it down in our pasta sauce jar. Pop the lid on so we don't waste anything. Pour that in as well. Turn that down just a tad. Now I'm just gonna stir everything together. All right, I'm gonna turn this back up just a little bit and we're gonna bring this up to a simmer. All right, we are back up to a simmer. We're just gonna add in this bag of cheese tortellini. This stirred in, and then this only takes 5 or 6 minutes to cook in this liquid. So I'm just gonna get it stirred in here. I might pop a lid on this. We're also gonna go ahead and add in about 2 cups of our spinach. As our tortellini cooks, our spinach will cook down as well. And I might add a little bit more water, a little bit more broth. I'm just gonna keep an eye on it and kind of see what our tortellini needs. But you can do the same. You may not need to add some, or you might think you need to add probably another half cup or so. Alrighty, our tortellini is nice and cooked. That spinach is cooked way down, as you can see. It smells really good. I did taste one of the little tortellini to make sure they're done. And they are perfect. It is delicious already. But lastly, I'm just gonna go ahead and turn it down to low. I might even turn it off. We are just gonna top with some mozzarella cheese. Probably about a cup, maybe a cup and a half. And this dinner will be done. This is a true, easy, one-pan dinner. And did not take long at all. This whole thing, even with filming, only took about 30 minutes to make. Okay, I'm gonna pop the lid back on just to let that melt a little bit. Now let's make this cheeseburger pie. It's everything you love about a cheeseburger, all with a Bisquick topping, savory, comfort food, super easy to make. Let's get started. Of course, we're gonna need our Bisquick. We have a little bit of shredded cheese. We're gonna need 1 pound of ground beef for this recipe, because it is a cheeseburger pie after all. We're gonna need a little bit of milk, 2 eggs, then we have some diced onion, diced tomato. We have a little bit of onion powder and then some salt and pepper. We have a large skillet and we're just gonna start by melting 1 tablespoon of butter. So our butter is melted. We're gonna go ahead and add in our chopped onion. This is about 1.25 cups, a little over a cup. And I just like to saute my onion just for a minute or 2 before adding in my ground beef. I like to kind of get a little bit of color on there, soften them up a little bit. I just added my ground beef. Now I'm just going to continue to brown this up until we have it all nice and brown. Alright, our ground beef looks pretty browned up. This ground beef is pretty lean, so I'm just going to take a paper towel and kind of soak up the excess grease this way. Plus a little bit of grease, all that's going to add is a little bit of flavor. So now we're going to go ahead and add in our seasonings. Sprinkle in that onion powder, a little sprinkle of salt, a little sprinkle of black pepper. We're also going to add about 1 cup of diced tomatoes, and this is actually a gin cup, but the opposite direction, a little less than a cup. Not the biggest fan of tomatoes, but I still like them in things, so we do still add a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and give everything a nice little stir. I went ahead and turned my skillet down to low, and now I'm just going to sprinkle in our cheese. Use whatever kind of cheese you want for a cheeseburger. I really like this Sargento. It's the 4-state cheddar. It has New York sharp, California mild, and Vermont sharp cheddar all in one. And really, you could add whatever kind of veggies in here. I think some sauteed mushrooms would be really good in here. And do some Swiss cheese, kind of like a mushroom onion Swiss burger, Bisquick style. Or you could add some black olives. You could add pickles, of course. But I think I'm going to skip the pickles this time, because Lord, y'all, we've been putting pickles in everything. Alright, we got our cheese stirred in. Now let's go over here and make our Bisquick topping. So to our mixing bowl, we're going to add about 1/2 cup of our Bisquick mix, 1 cup of milk, then we're going to add 2 eggs. Okay, now we're just gonna whisk everything together. All right, so I have my little pie plate out here. Now we're just gonna get our cheeseburger mixture into the pie plate. It's hard to hold with one hand, it's really heavy. All right, next we're gonna bring over our Bisquick batter and we're just gonna pour it right over top. And it's gonna look really runny at this point, but it will seep down in there and it kind of helps hold the whole pie together as well as create that biscuit crust on top. All right, our oven is preheated to 400. This is first going in the oven for 20 minutes at 400, and then we're gonna top with a little bit more cheese and bake for just a few more minutes after that. All right, y'all, our pie has been here for 20 minutes. I'm gonna add a little bit more cheese in here. It's looking good so far. Let's bring it over here. Let me grab the additional cheese. Y'all can kind of see already how it kind of seeps, the Bisquick seeps down in there and kind of creates that crust as well as kind of helps solidify the whole thing together. All right, I'm gonna sprinkle just a little bit of cheese on top. And this is going back into the oven for just about 5 to 10 minutes. Just basically enough for this cheese to melt. All right, let's give it another 5 minutes and we'll see how it looks. All right, y'all, it looks so good. Nice and hot and bubbly. Let's get it over here. All right, I'm gonna let it set up for probably 10 to 15 minutes. That way when we cut into it, everything will stick together. This looks so good and smells delicious. All right, y'all, we're gonna cut into this and see how it is. Hopefully I don't mess it up too bad. It smells so good. All right, looks so good. You can serve this with anything, just some steamed veggies, a salad. Look how good that looks, y'all. Let me get a fork. Super soft on top. Soft and pillowy Bisquick. Nice and cheesy. Look at all that ground beef in there. All right, y'all, that is 16 solid dinner ideas to keep in your back pocket. And if you're still not sure what to make first, how about starting with the one that made you the hungriest? And by the way, leave me a comment down below and tell me just which one that was. Don't forget to save this video because we both know you'll be asking yourself again tomorrow, or somebody else in your family, what's for dinner. I hope you'll subscribe to my channel and I'll see y'all real soon in the next one. Bye, y'all.